Party Master on Up and Go, The Bridge, 99 FM.
It's a brand new month. We're now into the month of November 2021. Good morning to you and welcome to Up and Go right here on The Bridge, 99 FM. Hope you had a good weekend, and we're here to get you through the morning until 10 o'clock when we sign off. It is a 4-hour stretch. We do it weekdays from 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock. Good morning to the members of my team. Good morning to you, the listeners here in Jamaica and around the world. Welcome to Monday's Radio here on The Bridge, 99 FM. Time now for headlines across the bridge for today, Monday, the 1st of November. We start with local information. In our headlines, from the Jamaica Gleaner, JLP Reading for Wholeness green light. 12 divisions under audit as party cranks up election machinery. Now, the governing Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, has pulled the covers off its election machinery, conducting canvasses and fielding candidates for more than 200 divisions, months ahead of the February deadline for local government elections. Chairman Robert Montague said the party has intensified its preparations. We have been interviewing and confirming we have candidates in all 228 divisions. However, there are about 12 divisions under review by the officers, said the chairman. He insisted that this is standard procedure. The Gleaner has learned that the Mona division is among the 12 under review. JLP Councillor Andrew Bellamy represents that division in the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, the KSAMC. However, Montague would not definitively confirm this when pressed on the matter. From the Observer, we have a story, Justice for Judges. Chief Justice Brian Sykes has called attention to the poor conditions affecting courts in the island's second city and elsewhere, saying that the time has come to settle the question of providing judges with proper courthouses and courtrooms. Speaking at the annual Assize service to mark the start of the Michaelmas term for St. James yesterday, the Chief Justice highlighted the plight of the parish court in St. James as one in need of urgent attention. For judges to dispense justice properly and adequately in our second city, Montego Bay, it should be done in appropriate circumstances. And I think the time has come now when the question of providing judges with proper courthouses and courtrooms needs to be settled. The parish court in St. James sits right next to a gully that overflows its banks from time to time, and despite the raising of the walls, whenever there's an extraordinary downpour of rain, it overflows, and it has done so. He says, I think we can stop counting now on many occasions, and it is now well established, according to the Chief Justice. We also go further afield in the region, and we head over to Guyana, who have advanced bilateral cooperation with China. His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali has accepted the letters of credence from the new Chinese ambassador to Guyana, Her Excellency Guo Haiyan, and said that his government is looking to build on the existing relationship between the two countries. Guyana looks forward to the continued advancement of bilateral cooperation between our states during your tenure, particularly in the areas of education, health, information, communication, technology, infrastructural development, and trade. Guyana also remains committed to working with the government and the People's Republic of China to promote high-level exchanges, also to strengthen strategic communication and promote more cultural engagement between the two countries, noted President Ali during a simple ceremony at the office of the President. And our final story that we want to be sharing with you inside of our headlines across the bridge this morning, France's President Macron says Australian Prime Minister lied to him on the submarine deal. French President Emmanuel Macron said Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison lied to him over the cancellation of a submarine building contract in September and indicated more was needed to be done to rebuild trust between the two allies. Macron and Morrison were in Rome for the G20 summit, the first time they had met since Australia scrapped a multi-billion-dollar submarine deal with France as part of a new security alliance with the United States and Britain announced in September. The new security alliance, dubbed AUKUS, and which could give Australia access to nuclear-powered submarines, caught Paris off guard and saw the French ambassadors recalled from Washington and Canberra amid accusations France had been betrayed. I have a lot of respect for your country. I have a lot of respect and a lot of friendship for your people. I just say when we have respect, you have to be true and you have to behave in line and consistently with this value, Macron told a group of Australian reporters who had traveled to cover the G20 summit. So, President Macron is literally stating quite publicly that the French Prime Minister lied to him. And I think it's going to take a while for that, for the dust to settle on that one. I don't get what might he have said to President Biden, because America is very much a part of that situation, because it's a case where France was supposed to supply these submarines, and then the U.S. got involved and took over the deal worth several $1 billion. Macron went public and squealed. How could they do that? And he already met with President Joe Biden. He didn't call him a liar from all reports, but he decided to call the Australian Prime Minister a liar. Wow. They have some beef to settle, and I'm sure they will. All right, it's 7 o'clock. We did promise you that we'd have a guest, and we do have him joining us at this time. He's the president of the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union. And this morning, there are a number of things we want to discuss with him, including what is going on, as we understand that some workers at Bank of Nova Scotia, who are represented by the BITU, are somewhat restive. We also want to pick his brain on the whole mandatory vaccination situation, where a number of private sector companies are going that route, or have announced that they will. Very, very pleased to have as my guest at this time Mr. Kavan Gayle, president of the BITU. Morning, Mr. Gayle. Welcome.
Good morning, Richie B, and good morning to your listeners.
All right. How are you doing, and how are you coping in this pandemic, Sir Kavan?
I'm taking it one day at a time, Richie. Trying to be safe and to be above ground.
Absolutely. Now, before we actually get into some of the items that I highlighted, just give us a little background for the benefit of the listeners of this great institution, the BITU, and what you've been able to do over the years in a nutshell.
So the BITU was formed by Sir Alexander Bustamante in 1938. It is a general trade union that represents the widest cross-section of employees in Jamaica, from the finance sector, the public sector, manufacturing, tourism, you name it. That's what we have been able to represent over many years. It's a far-reaching institution. We also have a staff of approximately almost 50 persons island-wide.
Yes.
We have offices in 3 locations island-wide. And we have been able to negotiate and improve the terms and conditions of employment for many workers over the many years. We would have, through collective bargaining, established some of the provisions that people take for granted, some of the provisions that an employer would just engage their employees nowadays. And we would have, over many years, assisted in the formulation of many of the labor legislations that you have today.
Yes.
That's the role and function of our trade union, and that's the role and function of the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union.
Absolutely. All right. There are many, many achievements that you could highlight, I'm sure, that you're very proud of. Now, Mr. Gayle, you represent workers at Bank of Nova Scotia, and we understand that that bank has been going through some significant rationalization over the last 3 years. I saw in a report where this financial year they will be closing the Crossroads branch and converting the Hagley Park, St. Andrew, Sam Sharp Square, Montego Bay, and Linstead St. Catherine branches to digital branches. What are the concerns of the workers and the union, BITU, in regard to these developments or these announcements that have been made by BNS?
So, Richard, let me start from the background that globally, the financial sector continues to change. Work continues to change, and this would have been triggered not only by the pandemic, but you have situations where these financial institutions would have invested heavily in technology, and they would have sought to migrate a lot of their customers to alternative channels. And so that speaks to these branches that they would have thought to change digitally, or in some aspect, what you call a cashless branch. We would have gone through this exercise before with this particular bank earlier in the year, starting in 2020, where they would have closed some branches and also turned some into digital. We would have gone through consultative exercise, which mitigated against many job losses in the very same bank. And it's not peculiar to this particular bank. There are other banks who would have embarked on that principle.
Okay.
The challenge we have this time around is that having an entrenched principle approach towards these rationalizations, the bank would have moved swiftly to not consult with the union in the first place, but went straight to the employees, which would have been a far change in terms of the added practice that we would have established over many years. This, however, raised some serious concerns to the workers, and the workers are asking, have you spoken to our union? Notwithstanding that, it created some sort of an anxiety among the workforce and a trust factor. And we called an emergency meeting. That meeting took place on Friday. It was a lengthy meeting that started at about 2 p.m. and never ended until after 6.
This was between the union and workers?
Between the union
management.
and the senior level of the bank.
Okay.
The highest level of the bank, including the CEO.
Okay.
Where we engaged in dialogue. Naturally, we would have raised the concern in terms of the approach they would have embarked on this time around. They accepted that they would have approached the matter inappropriately, and we have established some agreement in terms of the consultations going forward.
Okay.
There is going to be, as you have said, the closure of one particular branch, Crossroads branch, and the others that in Montego Bay and Linstead
and Hagley Park Road.
And Hagley Park Road,
Yes.
that they are seeking to become digital.
Yes.
What we have agreed on, Richie,
Tell us.
and to the important to your listeners, is that we have agreed on a process of consultation going forward, where there will be clear transparency, where we intend collectively to try and save as much jobs as possible. And we are going to put in all the measures to mitigate against job losses.
But
the workers would have been restive,
yes,
because of the fact that it would have created, again, anxiety among the workforce, having gone through this already, and the fact that they would have approached the workers and the workers would have been unaware of us having consultations with the business.
Do you have a number in terms of how many workers might be affected? And for those who might lose their jobs, have you already started talking about redundancy exercise?
So we have not started to talk about the redundancy exercise yet. What we have started to talk about is those who are likely to be impacted, the particular number, and we're trying to identify in other locations across the network where those roles can be placed in order to mitigate against job losses. It is our intent, Richie, to save jobs, especially in this economic climate.
Yes. So you'll be working with the bank to achieve that objective as best as possible.
The bank has agreed with us to assiduously work with that as best as possible.
You didn't give me.
We have done it before.
Okay. You didn't give me a number. Is it like 50, 60 workers or more that will be?
It is our understanding that within our bargaining unit that we represent,
Yes.
it may be almost 50 positions that would be affected.
Okay.
And we have been advised that there are some other positions to which there are non-unionized outside of the bargaining unit in higher levels that may be impacted also.
Okay. So customers of the bank don't have to worry at this stage for any action being taken by the union and workers they represent that would, upset the regular smooth flow of at the banks at this stage.
Not unless the bank would have changed their position that they have agreed with us on.
Okay. And that is not expected at this time.
No.
All right.
I hope not.
Before you go, Kavan Gayle, what are your thoughts on the mandatory vaccination policies that some companies within the private sector have been implementing?
Let me start with the premise, Richie, that the union that I lead and also the Confederation of Trade Union and the entire trade union movement is pro-vaccination. Mm-hmm. We believe strongly that everybody should take the vaccine, and the vaccine is safe, and we encourage vaccination in the workplace. The challenge we have with the mandatory approach is that in the first instance, the state has not mandated. There's no instruct from the state to mandate against vaccination. What the state has been seeking to do is to encourage and to educate the population to take the vaccine. So if the state was to have mandated the vaccination, then the state, you assume, would set a set of principles and protocols towards vaccination. That has not happened. The challenge we have is that in the absence of any rule, organizations who would have mandated are setting their own rules. Mm-hmm. And some of those rules, Richie, are unreasonable and unfair. We have seen rules that indicate that you must be vaccinated by a defined period. That defined period may very well be the time in which you get your first vaccine and it overlaps the second vaccine. It also instructs that if you are not vaccinated, you'll be terminated. It also instructs that if you are not vaccinated, you must provide negative PCR tests, which is an astronomical cost to any employee. And we find these positions taken to be strenuous in some sort to employees. I am also of the view that and let me make it clear, that in some areas of operations, especially those employees who are frontline in nature, they should have some sort of a requirement for vaccination in order to protect them in terms of those who they have to interface with and protect those around them. But if we are moving towards these mandatory positions, there ought to be some consultation with the workforce or the trade unions involved, and there ought to be some level of education. Once you start mandating this thing, what you essentially would be doing is that you would be stopping the relay. And what do I mean by that?
Tell us.
If you instruct an employee to take mandatory vaccination that is resisting and may very well not understand the whole thing about the vaccination, because there are many workers who really don't understand and are really in fear.
Yes. Stopping
the relay, that employee would be forced out, and so their family who invariably might not be taking the vaccine anyhow is not going to be able to understand it and take it. And so it renders the population and a density in the population not to be vaccinated. You want people to understand about the vaccine, and many workers who we have spoken to, we have engaged with, have taken a different approach. We have conducted vaccination blitz in organizations where the employees collectively speak to the workers and get the ministry to come in and take and do the vaccination,
Yes.
and we find that there are take-ups.
All right, Kavan, we're pretty much out of time, but I tell you, we search for consensus between the unions, the workers, and, of course, members of the private sector on this matter. And we'll continue to stay in touch with you and get your feedback as we go along. Thanks for your time and your thoughts this morning, and have a great day.
You too, anytime.
All right, that's a chat there with the president of the Bustamante Industrial Trade Union, Mr. Kavan Gayle. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're very pleased to welcome to Up and Go this morning Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks. She's a lecturer, a storyteller, and motivational speaker, and she's here to tell us some more about the Ananse Soundsplash for 2021. Good morning, Dr. Meeks.
Good morning, Richie B. How are you?
I am doing well. How have you been?
I've been great. It's been a long time since we've chatted. Before I chat about the Storytelling Festival, let me just congratulate Bridge 99. I think I sent you a message, an email message when it first came out, say, what a wonderful idea.
Yes.
This idea of a media house that reaches out to the diaspora is just such a critical thing when Jamaicans, they are all over the world, and not just want to hear what's happening here, but want to share their views and their activities. So congratulations.
Thank you so very much, Amina. We really appreciate that. So, rumor has it that Brown Nancy will be attending the Ananse Soundsplash. Is there any truth to that?
Yes, and rumor has it that Ananse believes that one of the best ways to invest in Jamaica right now, hear me, I'm sure what on your sponsors of this, is to invest, is an investment in storytelling. Really, storytelling, the Ntukuma Foundation, Storytelling Foundation, sees storytelling as both source and resource for personal and national development. When we look at our stories, for example, and we see the respect which is paid to the elderly in our traditional stories, now that this big conference is going on or is about to start about climate change, when we look at the way Ananse wrestles with the environment, to find food, to get clean water, to take care of the forest, then we see that because we're marginalized, Ananse, we are not really accessing all of the information that our ancestors accessed to be able to do what they did so that we could be here today. So we position storytelling as source and resource. Of course, teachers will understand that listening to stories is very critical to language development skills. You have to hear, you have to listen, you have to understand, you have to be able to summarize, and you have to be able to retell. So every kintita laugh,
right?
Because we sit down and have such great fun telling stories. It does not really mean that we are idling. So for everyone, from the education system to the cultural system to agriculture, to people who have money and have a big house and want to say, come take this house and call it a Nancy house. An investment in storytelling is very critical. Our storytelling organization was the first organization to make a concerted, deliberate response to COVID-19. When we decided we were going to be telling stories that heal and unify. And we used the electronic platforms to be able to do this for about 4 months every Sunday. We were telling stories all around the world, wherever we were. And since that time, other storytelling organizations, not only have they done it, but they have credited us with the fact that they're doing it. And also there has been an explosion of this art form because it is so relatively easy to do. You sit down and tell a story. You're not dancing. You're not trying to put on a play and so on. And so it gives us that added responsibility with this platform available to us to be careful of the stories that we tell. One of my favorite philosophers, Ben Okri from Nigeria, says, a nation is as good as the story it tells about itself.
That's quite
Isn't
profound.
that awesome?
It is a
That's
profound statement.
awesome.
Yes, yes.
So what are we telling ourselves, yes?
Yes, the storytelling then is something that you think it's essential to our very survival almost, wouldn't you say?
It is, you put it so beautifully. It is essential to our survival. Storytelling is a tool of memory, you know, Richie B.
Mm-hmm.
When I lived in Antigua, and this is a story that I tell all the time, when people ask me, why did I begin to take storytelling so seriously? I lived in Antigua where I had a children's play group that was using the elements of theater to develop self-esteem, and of course, them learn public speaking and so on. And there was a little boy in the group, Ade Kunle. At that time, he was 8. He's a big man now. Mm-hmm. Ade Kunle was born in Nigeria to a Nigerian father and an Antiguan mother. And when Ade Kunle and his mom relocated to Antigua, his dad had not yet entered the Caribbean. Do you know that one day in one of our sessions, Ade Kunle told the group a story that his Nigerian father told him in Nigeria, which my Jamaican father told me in Jamaica, and my Jamaican father never did go to Nigeria. and Ade Kunle's dad had not come to the Caribbean.
Yes.
So we look at storytelling as a mechanism by which we survived. How do we explain that one story exists across the Atlantic for 500 years and that parents are still telling it? Mm-hmm. And so the existence of stories as a survival mechanism, but also as part of what we remember, is so important to our survival. We have to remember that we have gods and goddesses of greatness. We have to remember that we didn't just roll over and die. What is the story of John Canoe, for example? Mm-hmm. How it ended up here, and, you know, what kind of stories, and another day I will tell you what kind of stories we were telling about the capture and the invasion of that part of the continent by the slave raiders, and how we brought that as a story through costumes that we now call John Canoe.
I will listen to you tell a story any day, any time of the day. You do it so well. Let's talk a little bit now, though, Amina, about the Ananse Soundsplash. Who should attend? Give us some details about it.
Everybody should attend. Ananse Soundsplash is a combination of storytelling and workshops and conferences. So if you want to learn to tell a story, there is a space for you. If you just want to listen, there is a space for you. Ananse Soundsplash is an 8-leg road tour, we call it. Now it's an 8-leg cyberspace tour because since last year we are on the electronic platforms. So we open on Tuesday, November 16 at 10 o'clock. And you can convert the time, so wherever you are. And we close on Sunday the 21st. There are 2 sessions specifically designed for children in schools. That's the opening session, where we have already collected from young people questions that they have about Ananse and storytelling. And those questions are going to be answered by a Professor Opuku of Ghana, who is also a professor in African culture and religion. So our children don't want to miss it. But November 19 is another very special presentation for children. November 19 is International Men's Day. I know people like Richie B always I say, we don't have International Women's Day. Where is International Men's Day?
Yes.
Well, I am here to tell you that International Men's Day has existed since 1992. Oh. And whenever our festival has an activity which falls on International Men's Day, we honor it. Mm-hmm. So this year, Ananse goes to school, and only men will be telling stories, either traditional stories, yes, or stories from their lived experience that A, encourage gender respect, and B, tell stories about what are the positive attributes of male heroism. Because you know that sometimes we honor some acts in our men that really should not be honored at all. Mm-hmm. So we have people like Wesley Scott and Errol Bean. We have someone from Haiti, from the USA. We have a member of the Taino family in Jamaica who will just be focusing on the positive attributes of male heroism. Mm-hmm. Our discussions are also critical. This year, we have one discussion that looks at language. What is the value of indigenous languages in storytelling for children? We have one discussion that looks at what is the value of storytelling? Why are we doing this? And storytelling festivals. We have a very important discussion on food security. What climate change have to do with food security? What does peace have to do with food security? What does the way we eat have to do with food security? When we eat to heal our bodies, are we also healing the land? Mm-hmm. And we find a lot of these answers or indications of the answers in our stories. But we have some wonderful panels. We have Joseph Parkinson, the head of the language unit at UWI, who will be in that discussion about languages. We have a South African, Eleanor Sisulu, whose work is in ensuring that books are translated into the 11 indigenous official languages of South Africa, and UNESCO just gave her a big prize for doing that. So there must be something about speaking in your own language. For Indeed. The discussion on the festival, Deborah Hicklin, Henry Mutu, and so on. Okay. And we culminate on National Storytelling Day.
Which
Many
is?
people... November 20.
November 20.
Yes, in 2014, the Governor General proclaimed November 20 as National Storytelling Day. Through a little instigation, of course. November 20 is Universal Children's Day, and we wanted that to be a National Storytelling Day in Jamaica, so we could use it to honor our children's right to heritage and culture.
Well, you know,
we're going to be on the Facebook pages.
Yes, I have enough time to practice my storytelling techniques to prepare myself for participation. But I'd like to thank you for sharing all of these bits of information with us this morning, Amina, and I wish you well with the Ananse Soundsplash. Sounds really exciting. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we'd like to welcome our guest. At this time, we have with us the new chairman of the People's National Party. And it's none other than Dr. Angela Brown Burke. And she won in a competition, really, on the weekend. And this morning, she is joining us as the new chairman of the PNP. Good morning, Dr. Brown Burke. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Richie B, to you and your listeners.
Thank you for joining us. You've been voted the first female chairman of the People's National Party. How are you feeling about that victory?
You know, it's a humbling experience, quite frankly, just to hear what persons are expecting, how they see it, and what it means to them. You know, but we're an 83-year-old party. You know, we have been here at every major moment in the history of our country. And, you know, so it's an awesome responsibility.
Were you expecting the outcome?
Well, you know, I'd done the work. You know how your athletes say, you know, we put in the training and all we had to do is execute. Mm-hmm. I know I have brand new respect for that turf. So we knew when we came on the day, all we had to do was execute. And that took some doing as well. So I'm very pleased that the team was able to fulfill what they had planned and carried it out, and that we were able to do what we came to do.
And you're satisfied with the margin of victory. What were the votes like? Yours to Mr. Daly's?
It's 147 to 121.
So it was fairly close.
It was. You know, I keep saying to people that I think the party had two very good candidates that were running for the position of chairman. And at the end of the day, one would come out ahead of the other, and that is how it happened.
It is quite commendable, Dr. Brown Burke, that I saw where both yourself and your opponent, Mr. Horace Daly, exchanged, I think, campaign hats as a gesture toward unity. But do you believe your election might in any way set back party unity?
Well, I'm hoping that it doesn't. One of the things that I'm very clear about and very pleased about, because from the very beginning, Comrade Daly and I spoke about being deliberate in what we did to be able to preserve that progress that we had been making towards unity. And so during the campaign itself, I thought it was, in fact, one of the cleanest or better ones that we have run in terms of party unity. And I'm hoping that that will continue. I certainly intend, as chairman, to be deliberate and intentional about the things that I do and say towards unity, because I believe that we are at that place. Mm-hmm. I also believe that the unity is really going to be manifested in the work that we do. Sometimes when we take the focus ourselves and begin to work for those that we are committed to defending and to be championing and advocating for, we find that it is far easier for us to be united in doing those things, because it reminds us of the common purpose that we have.
Mm-hmm. The position of chairman of the PNP is regarded as a very powerful one, Angela. For the benefit of our listeners, what role does the chairman play in the life of your party?
Well, as I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, the role of the chairman, as it is listed and described in our Constitution, speaks primarily around the role of chairing meetings and so on. Over the years, though, the chairman has been the individual, to bring the chairs, regional chairs together, looking at relationships with sister parties, and just simply setting the tone. What I have promised to do and pledged to do is to make sure that I protect that space for grassroots democracy in our party. How the party is structured, we have space and organs where individuals actually have an opportunity to make their voice be heard, put their positions on the table. They have been asking for a greater role in determining the policy position and the policy discussions that we are having. Mm-hmm. They have asked for a greater role in terms of just giving them greater voice. And I believe that as chairman, I'm duty bound to ensure that I protect it, that space for it to happen. I encourage it, and I encourage at all the different levels for us to be deliberate about that space that is created. Mm-hmm. I've also promised to get do a Dropbox so that persons can actually reach out in terms of the issues that they would like us to talk about or to deal with, the suggestions they want to make about what they would want to see in the party, the issues that they want to place on the agenda, and all of that. And so I will also be deliberate about doing that, and also about finding ways, even with COVID and the new norms that we're developing, of really socializing a little bit more as comrades.
Mm-hmm. So you're ready for all the tasks ahead in this new role?
I'm ready, but I'm also very cognizant that I cannot do it alone. Mm-hmm. It's not the chairman that does all of that. We have to work together with the officers that are there, with the members, and with our supporters. And I think what is going to be important is to make sure that we recognize the value that our members and supporters bring to the table. I think if we can do that, yes, then we'll be in a good place.
Do you have a deputy?
Yes, the deputy chairman is Dr. Floyd Morris.
Okay.
Dr. Senator Floyd Morris.
Senator Floyd Morris, good morning, and congratulations to him as well. All right, so the People's National Party provided Jamaica with its first female prime minister, and now you're the first female chairman of the party. Do you have any further plans to maybe move towards leadership someday?
Absolutely not. But having mentioned those two positions in the People's National Party, I have to say, yes, that fate has ordained it that Southwest St. Andrew as a constituency gave the PNP's first president and Jamaica's first prime minister. Mm-hmm. And they have also given the party its first female chair.
All right, so big ups to that constituency.
I had to.
You had to do
that. Coincidence is just too much.
Not a problem. Congratulations once again, Dr. Angela Brown Burke, and all the best to you.
Thanks very much.
All right, much appreciated. Right now it's 8:43 a.m. That's where we're at in this beautiful Monday morning. I want to say a big thank you to Kavan Gayle, the president of the BITU, who was our guest at 7 o'clock this morning. And thank you, Mr. Gayle, for all your thoughts. We had Dr. Amina Blackwood Meeks, lecturer and storyteller, as well as a motivational speaker, who was our guest at 8 o'clock And they have the Ananse Soundsplash coming up, and everybody's invited to be a part of that. Can you tell a good story? If you can, then one of these days I'll allow for the next microphone to be opened up and for you to share one with me. It doesn't have to be humorous. Sometimes serious stories are also quite well accepted and appreciated. We had a nice chat too with Dr. Angela Brown Burke, the new chairman of the People's National Party. And of course, during the Global Connection, we had Killaboo out of New York joining us during that segment. I'd like to thank all of you, or all of our peeps in the streets, for keeping us updated on activities on the streets of Jamaica earlier and throughout the program. Thank you, of course, to my team here, DJ Audley, Jody, and Richard Rainford. And most of all, we thank you for listening here in Jamaica and around the world as you checked us out this morning for Up and Go, our friends in the Jamaican diaspora across the United States and in the United Kingdom and also in Canada and all around the world. Thank you for listening. Make it a great day today. Don't forget that Richie B loves you bad, and this is why we always try to treat you good, so you'll be good to yourselves until one more time when we get a chance to be good to you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow morning at 6, God willing. We'll do it all over again. Bye-bye.
Richie B, the party master, on Up and Go, The Bridge, 99 FM.